What is the aim and investment approach of the fund?
The aim of the fund is to outperform the MSCI World Small Cap Index by picking the best smaller companies around the world. Our approach recognises that the universe of global smaller companies is vast. And what's more, relative to larger companies, smaller companies are local. They are much more influenced by local end markets, local customs, local cultures, local laws. And indeed, the management of global smaller companies tend to be local as well. In fact, the majority of smaller company management around the world do not have English as their primary language. Therefore, the way we run our global smaller company fund is we allocate money to each of our smaller company teams around the world. We allocate a portion of our money to our US smaller company team in San Diego. We allocate a portion of our money to our European smaller company team in Frankfurt, a portion of our money to our Japanese smaller company team in Tokyo, and a portion of our money to our Asian smaller company team in Hong Kong. And we task each of those teams with designing a high conviction smaller company fund to outperform the local benchmark.
What is your benchmark and how important is that benchmark to your process?
Our benchmark is the MSCI World Small Cap Index, but the universe of stocks we can select from is vast and it extends well beyond our benchmark. The universe, for example, includes countries that are not in the benchmark, for example, China or Malaysia, and it includes stocks that are maybe within regions that are in the benchmark, but not in the benchmark itself. For example, smaller companies in the US, smaller companies in Europe, smaller companies in Japan. The index has just over 4,200 companies, but the universe is over 16,000, and that is where we seek to find our best ideas from. What I would say is we are aware of the benchmark. We seek to outperform the benchmark, but we don't limit ourselves to that benchmark. We target those 16,000 companies.
What is the Allianz Global Small Cap Equity investment process?
Our investment process could roundly be described as bottom-up. But the four teams in San Diego, in Frankfurt, in Japan and Asia each have slightly different investment processes. And we don't seek to iron out those differences. We don't have a single global small cap fund investment process. We want the teams to use the investment processes in their regions that they've been using for 10 to 15 to 20 years to outperform their local benchmark. The similarities, though, is we all pay attention to liquidity. And we all have a liquidity screen. We don't want to invest in smaller companies that are illiquid. And we all do fundamental bottom-up research into our companies, and we all meet the company management.
Is the research that you employ proprietary or third-party?
We do substantially all our own research. The portfolio teams, the smaller company teams in San Diego, in Frankfurt, in Tokyo, in Hong Kong, we do all the research into the companies we invest in. We meet the company management ourselves. But we are generalists. I believe, for example, I'm very good at analysing a general retail company, but I know I'm not very good at analysing a more complex pharmaceutical company, for example, that probably has products, has drugs I've never really heard of, and supplies into end markets that I'm only vaguely aware of. For that sort of situation, we have our career analysts. We have analysts who are in North America, in Europe, in Asia, and Japan, who are experienced in analysing these companies. And in this situation, in the pharmaceutical example, they would do the company research, they would lead the meeting with the company management, and they would come up with the investment decision. We, of course, have a substantial range of portfolio managers around the world we can call upon for their expertise. We've got our strategists within Allianz Global Investors, and we, of course, have our grassroots platform.
How is risk managed in the fund?
We seek to have all the risk in the portfolio to be stock specific because we want all the returns to come from selecting the right companies. But there will always be factor risks in the portfolio. There'll be currency risks, there'll be region risk, economic risk, there'll be style risk. Part of what I do is to monitor those risks and seek to control them, and we don't allow any individual factor risk to get over 20% of the total risk of the portfolio.
What qualifies you and your team to run the Allianz Global Small Cap Equity strategy?
Well, there are 16,000 smaller companies listed around the world, and smaller companies by their nature are local. They are much more driven by local end markets, local customs, local laws, local cultures. The management of smaller companies are local. The management of the Chinese supermarket company in Beijing are Chinese, and they don't speak English, and they don't have a culture we would describe as Western. Therefore, an investor in a fund of global smaller company funds would want to know that its managers had ready access to the company management, understood those local end markets, local customs, local cultures, and when they met the management, were able to do the management meeting in the same language as the management. We have those capabilities. We have teams in San Diego, we have a European team in Frankfurt, we have a Japanese team in Tokyo, and we have an Asian team in Hong Kong. We are able to understand the local customs, local laws, local cultures. We have ready access to the local management, and we are able to speak to the management in their own language. Success in global smaller companies is all about picking the right company, not picking the region, and that's what we do.